Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of getting into bushcraft aspects of shelter. I'm not going to get into all of them. There's just so many out there. I'm just going to give the lowdown, the quick down and dirty and affordable that you could use starting out. So let me introduce you man's first shelter, believe it or not. So, and here we have it right here. Man's first shelter, most beloved and valuable companion, fire. Uh, Basically with a good fire, you can pretty much outlast most most survival scenarios. I ain't gonna say all, because I'm sure there's gonna be certain aspects of extreme bitter cold, blizzards, uh, you know extreme temperature drops like minus 60. It's only minus 60 and such. It's only gonna prolong the inedible. But yeah, right here, man's first shelter. In most survival scenarios, that if you have a fire going, not only does it help the morale, um, gives you a little kind of aspect of a homey feeling, and most importantly, it's going to keep you warm, providing you have enough fuel. Biggest mistake that people do is make a pile about yay big, think it's going to last them the night, and if the general rule of thumb with fires is if you think you have enough, triple it. I go by that, standard, and I've yet to be disappointed in that. Went with the standard of, oh, it's good enough, and it wasn't. Yeah, nothing like waking up at 2 in the morning, fire's dead, and you have no more fuel. Sucks. So, second aspect of shelter, clothes. Avoid cotton. Avoid cotton if you can. It's, especially at the wintertime, this time of the year, it's damp, it's cold, it rains, it snows, it sleets, etc., etc. You're going to get wet. Um, you know, I've seen people, tote, you know, these pants, bulletproof pants. Nice. Oh yeah, waterproof, sheds water, breathes, etc. Keeps you warm. It'll protect you everything except for a nuclear holocaust. And then you look at the price tag, like $400-500. It's like, ouch. If you have the money, by all means, get it. But a lot of us starting out, we don't have that. So, what do I recommend? I recommend BDU pants. It doesn't have to be camoed. It could be green, it could be blue, it could be hot pink, for all I care. As long as it's a kind of like a 60-40, 50-50 blend. The reason why is if you do get wet, it'll dry out fast. Though there is a negative aspect to that of you have a fire, and a lot of the 50-50, 60-40 pants made with nylon or polyester, and well, fire loves that. Yeah, makes nice little holes. I have a hole here, where a spark came out and landed in a very delicate area and proceeded to smolder and made a nice kind of a dime-sized hole when all said was done in just a matter of seconds. So there's that. Number one thing I would recommend is wool. Good pair of wool pants, and those are going to be a very pretty penny. It's going to have to bite the bullet on that and get yourself a good pair of wool pants. One that's almost impossible to find. Impossible. It's like, I have a pair that's too small now. Living the good life of being married. But, yeah, it basically was the Swiss military wool pants. It was thick, it was heavy, but, it's like, you could, wade through slush and your legs will still be warm. But that's hard to find. The next best option is to finish military wool pants. They're good close. comparison-wise. But generally, if you can find it, Korean War era wool pants, wool shirts are good. This is a Pendleton wool shirt I got off of eBay for 30 bucks, including shipping. You can't find things like that. It's just, good and bad, of course, we all know. But, next is have a good outer layer. You see me normally wear my wool capote. Well, we warmed up in between storms again. In fact, we're actually going into a very warm spell, so I'm wearing my little frock capote I made in that one video of how I make my own capotes and frocks. Anyways, but yeah, this is a 12-ounce duck canvas capote, if you would call it. But it'll work. I mean, if it rains, it'll get damp, but it won't get saturated. Most importantly, it keeps the wind out. So, anyways, that's another aspect of shelter is good clothes. You have fire, you have good clothes. You're gonna be okay for this time of the year, providing that you're not in the Arctic or the Dakotas right now of minus 60 wind chill. So, all right. Well, let me show you another aspect of getting through the night and comfort and ease. So it's like another form of shelter, basically. So here we go. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of bushcrafting and wilderness survival. Starting out, there's no way about it. You're gonna have to take it on the chin and bite the bullet on this. But get yourself a really good wool blanket. They're going to be expensive. There's no getting around it. You can probably find it at a yard sale, flea market, thrift stores. Some people got lucky. I'm not one of them. So I had to bite the bullet and buy myself a good wool blanket. I would recommend twin to queen size. I prefer queen size because I like to wrap myself up. 4 to 6 pounds. Make sure they're like around 4 to 6 pounds. And this is a 6-pound wool blanket right here. Queen size. Not going to unravel it here for you because it's going to be a pain in the arse to get it up. However, another problem about sleeping out sometimes, especially open sky camping, that I like to do is frost, dew, rain, snow. So even with the wool blanket, it's kind of uncomfortable, being wet and all. So what I usually bring was been recommended. I've used this for the past 20 years. Body bag. Help you get the sleep of the dead, huh? But this, there's a reason why I like using this, is it keeps all the moisture off. Drawback is it creates a vapor barrier, so you're gonna have, more condensation on the inside, but I'd rather have that than, the dew and frost and rain. You can use a sleeping bag cover. I've used that, a lot. I like that. But what I like about this, the body bag, you can turn this into a hammock. So you got your sleep station, you got your sleep cover. This I made out of painter's cloth, drop cloth, as a ground cover. So let me show you something a little interesting I did with this, alright? Okay, you notice I have these kind of cords here. It's also double layered. I could crawl in there if I so desire, but what I plan on using this for mostly is, well, like that. and stuff the interior with debris. It could be pine needles, these weeds here, leaves, especially back east in the Appalachias. You stuff that full of leaf, you have yourself a nice mattress, and you're basically eliminating one of the heat loss mechanisms of conduction. So, there we go. Simple little sleep system that you could use. Alright, well, going to be changing locations, and I'll show you other forms of shelter. So, more to come. Well, moved to a different area. It's a long hike, but right now under juniper forest right here. So we covered a couple of the real basic shelters of just a wool blanket and fire. So getting started, some of you are probably wondering, how come I don't teach, making natural shelters? Well, starting out, you're not going to have that much knowledge, and a lot of times, it's just going to be trial and error. When you first make your first shelter, primitive shelter, it's probably not going to be the best, and you're going to want a backup. So, I'm going to show you what you could do with an 8x10 tarp, the heavy-duty emergency space blanket, two heavy contractor grade trash bags, and a few other things. So, with that said, let's look for a nice area to set up shelter, alright? In case I haven't mentioned it before, this is one of the reasons why you want a south-facing slope or area. This area here is north-facing. Which you can see, we had snow about a few weeks ago and it's still here. Turn around, southerly facing, no snow. And this area is not that good of an area. As you can see, it's very rocky. However, you can use the rocks in a way to make your fire pit or to heat up rocks for a fire bed. So, moving on. You notice that I don't have my usual walking stick. What I brought this time was a trekking pole. Normally I don't like using these. Find them kind of flimsy. But they do have a good use though in preparing a shelter. I have, even when I go on my treks, I have one of these in my pack. So let me show you what I could do with an 8x10 tarp for right now. Some stakes that I always carry, you should carry as well. It's always best to have some gear that you could use. You never know what's going to happen. So let me show you. Here we have it. A quick and crude shelter. Oh man, it was a pain in the neck to get these stakes in due to the fact that ground's quite rocky. Go down about 2 inches and hit one of these big boulders here. So, anyways, this is an 8x10 tarp. I like the heavy duty one, especially with the silver part on the inside that helps reflect the heat back in. This will keep you warm. It's a small little tent. You can scoot way down in here, and it'll keep you out of the rain, the snow, the wind, providing you have it faced at the right direction. So, but what happens if you're forced to spend the night out in this and it's going to get kind of cold here? Not going to have much debris on the ground here, which is conduction. So you're going to want to help minimize your radiation exposure as much as possible. So let me show you.
Okay. Notice that I'm using a bright yellow parachute cord. That's just for visual. So, all right. Again, gold. Say for the sake of argument, you have your blanket or debris on here. By the way, what's really good to lay upon is juniper duff. You know, those needles and whatnot. I don't know what it is, but it's always warm. Even when wet, it's warm. So, let's get the heavy-duty emergency space blanket on. Again, silver side facing in to help reduce radiation. Always helps to find out which is the long end. So what I'm going to do now is get some parachute cord tied to the stakes here, and then we'll show you how the complete setup is. And there you have it, that ugly, crude shelter. But you know what? It'll keep you warm. And in one of my videos, I did something like this. Put it over a fire bed. Oh man, I was too warm. I was way too warm during that night. I mean, it's got down to the teens. I had to strip off to my underwear. It was that and sleep on top of my sleeping bag. It was that hot. So, anyways, here's how I secured it to the top. I put a little rock in there, tied the rock, looped it to there, ran a length of cord to one of the stakes. And there you go. As you can see, I tucked the corners at the bottom here. This is actually big enough for 2 people. 3 if you want to get real cozy. 2 people, the dog, or my dog and myself. But you know what? This will keep you warm. It'll keep you out of the wind. It'll keep you dry. As I said, this ain't pretty. It's crude. But, you know, it works. It's also very lightweight, much lighter than a normal tent. So, there we go. Now, with the problematic of the rocks around here, what do, you know, if it's just 2 rocks and all you can get is just 1 stake in and you need to set up a shelter like this? Let me show you. So, here's what you can do if you don't, you know, the ground's too rocky or you don't have your trekking pole. So, here's what you do is you get a, you know, tree like this, dead or whatever, could be a rock. You measure out like this, and here's something that kind of a rule breaker right there, that people get so caught up in trying to get the shelter going that they don't pay attention to the direction it's facing. You see, that was east, towards you is west, north. This time of the year, winds come from the northwest and northwest, at times from the north. So, imagine, if you will, you have your shelter here set up, get it up, get in for the night, and a front comes through from the north. Your shelter is now becoming a wind tunnel and a balloon. And all that cold air, and all that rain, all that snow is going to come in at you. So, let's not put that shelter up here. Let's move to a different area where it could be facing south. So, now here's what I'm talking about right here. Now facing the exact opposite direction of where I was facing from before. Even better, have a nice little juniper here. You know, protect me from some of the wind here. Scrape up this duff here, throw it inside. First thing first, clear out debris. But you know, there's a slight deviation here. I mean, here it's kind of uphill, but that's, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. If you have to scoot down to the bottom of your shelter, more protection. Now, when it comes to the height, I like mine kind of, you know, crotch height in a way. You know, everybody has their own difference. I mean, I've seen people have it up here and have a nice opening. Well, this is winter, and I'm trying to keep the radiation loss down to a bare minimum. Grab a handy dandy stake. And the thing is, I could easily move the lanyard or the line up and down if I so desire here. Forgot my rock. And I know one of you said, well, you should have brought your hatchet or tomahawk. Yeah, I should have. It slipped my mind. Oh well. Here we go. Get nice and taut. Here we go. I am disorganized today, it seems. Jeez. You know what? I'm gonna raise this. Here we go. Same thing as before, I'm going to tuck the bottom corners in. As you can see, it's a very, very low profile. Hope you're not claustrophobic. But, you know, you can use your trekking pole or a piece of wood. Or not. But basically, this is like kind of an emergency shelter, low profile. You want to be seen. Like so. There are disadvantages to this, of course, as you know. You know, one is moving around like this. Wind comes up and it's going to start rattling. And as I said, if you're claustrophobic in any way, you know, this will mess with your head. But it works. Already I can feel it warming up in here. So, well, there we go. So, that's it for this tarp shelter. It ain't the best, but as I said, it'll work. So, let's move on to something else here, shall we? Okay, well, here's another shelter you could come up with. It's a simple A-frame. You know, have it tied to a tree or a rock, to another one area, and put your tarp over it. As you can see, this end right there is due to the brush there, but inside it is quite roomy. The only problem is there's an opening on both ends. So, but I mean, generally, if you have the sides facing the main direction of the wind, you'll be okay. So, here's another like kind of a simple shelter you could do. Okay, so say worst case scenario, something happened here, right? Your tarp blew away, you forgot it, it tore, whatever, something, whatever it might be. Anyways, you can make an expedient, quick shelter. One thing I carry is contractor grade trash bags, which everybody should carry in there because it has so many uses. Aside from making a rain jacket out of it, you can use it to gather, stuff it full of debris like duff, pine needles, leaves, to make something of a mattress. So I have two here. Buried down, of course, at the bottom of the pack is two contractor grade bags. I have the 55-gallon drum, and it's a 1.5 mil. Fairly durable and tough, but it's still fairly flimsy. What I like to use, these, by the way, I'll probably use as gathering or a rain jacket. These, on the other hand, is the 42-gallon contractor grade 3 mil trash bag. You know, as you can see, I can even almost use it as a blanket. But I got this idea from the late Ron Hood in one of his videos. Carry these, and I've done that, and I'll tell you what, it has had a lot of uses, which is like, especially in the wintertime here, though, you know, it's all frozen and such, put the snow, ice in there, tied up, hang in the sun. In a few hours, the radiation, you know, causing the sun rays heating up the plastic, which will melt the ice and snow. You just take one end, kind of and just drink from it. Tie it off, you're good to go. But What I'm going to show here is how to make an expedient, quick shelter out of 2 of these. More than likely, I'm probably going to have to lower the ridge line there. But let me show you how I'm going to do this here. First thing I'm going to do is open the bag. Got a little taste of sagebrush. Okay. I mean, I guess I could crawl in. I'm small enough, you know, kind of be like a little mouse or something like that. But that's what I'm not going to do. Instead, I'm going to cut the bottom open. There we go. Okay. Now I have a tube. Next thing you're going to do reach down deep into your bag. Duct tape. If you don't have it in your kit, you should. This is one of the most important things you could have, you know, for repairs, as you said, making shelter, etc., etc. Actually, what I don't like about it is these stupid tabs here. Something I just don't like about these. This ain't gonna be pretty. It'll be downright ugly. But in a survival situation, it will keep you alive. Gotta move this out of the way. Of course, you could do the smart thing and make one of these ahead of time and then roll it up and put it in your pack. But it's just a demonstration of what you could do in an emergency situation. Or you just want to go out and do something like this. concern is all this dust and dirt getting on the plastic. Even if you have good quality duct tape, it can still interfere with the sticking. That's why I do a double layer sometimes. Like right here, I'm probably going to have to triple layer it. That's fine. Whatever works. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is cut a hole at the end here for the line to go through. Here we are. So, well, we know that direction's east. So that way, that's where we're going to want to have the sun face. That way, you know, the entrance face. Bleh. That way, when the sun goes like this, it'll constantly warm this. So, I can tell right now, this is a little bit too high. So let me fix this here. Now that I lowered it, how am I going to get it on? Dang it. Oh, seniority moment. So, let's show me getting in here, huh? Now mind you, as I said, this is basically like an emergency shelter. It probably won't be comfortable, but you know what? It'll keep me dry and warm. Oh, it's like a cocoon. There you have it. Trash bag shelter, emergency. Take these ties, you don't want to seal it up too much because you'll violate the rule of 3 of air. So, but this will keep you alive. You could sleep in it, but as I said, it probably won't be comfortable. But it works. It's like a sausage casing, but if it started pouring or snowing or whatnot, get in here and you'd at least be dry. So there you have it. Moving on to the next spot here. Discovered this nice little shelter here in Juniper Patch. Have yourself your emergency space blanket or tarp. Wrap up around it, and we'll be able to weather out any storm in this. So, something to think about when you're about. And now, I was pretty hesitant about, introducing this or not. Mostly because the Lavvu shelter halves, especially, are getting harder and harder to find. And when you do find them, they're actually kind of expensive. But well worth it, in my opinion. Get 2 of them, you have a nice shelter that, no wrestling or fumbling with the tarp as you saw with me. Spray it with silicone, you have it waterproof, it's windproof. You can have like a little stove in there. And, like this, have a fire right there, you're good to go. So, there you have it, shelters of getting into bushcraft. So you could you don't have to necessarily use a Lavvu half. The Belgium shelter is good. It's just kind of awkward for me to put together. The one that's really hard to find now is the former U.S. military pup tent. The 2 halves and everything. That could be used. You could even use the German Flicktarn tent as well. Those are the recommendations I have. As I said, like with this trekking pole, has a lot of uses for making shelter and everything. You could use a stick, attach it to a limb if you're under a tree. But other than that, a lot of it is just basically your own, trial and error. What works for you, I know it works for me. So this is, advice I have for getting into bushcraft and wilderness survival. So, any suggestions, hints, please leave a comment. Hit like if you like it. I hope. And if you haven't already, do subscribe. Be coming out with a little bit more of these here. I think the next I'm going to cover is foot gear, followed by cooking gear. So, anyways, I hope I entertained you with my fumbling and stumbling. So, with that said, more to come. Have a good day.